Namaskar or Yellarigu Namaskara and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all the shareholders to the 29th Annual General Meeting of Syngene International Limited. This meeting is being held through video conference in accordance with the circulars issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. In order to comply with the social distancing norms, the directors have joined this meeting virtually. Before we initiate the AGM proceedings, let me introduce my colleagues who have joined us on video conference and are with me on the dais. I would like to start by introducing Mr. Jonathan Hunt, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer. Next, Mr. Paul Blackburn, Independent Director and Chairman of the Audit Committee and Risk Management Committee. Next, we have Ms. Vinita Bali, Lead Independent Director and Chairperson of Nomination and Remuneration Committee. The next board member I would like to introduce is Professor Catherine Rosenberg, Non-Executive Director and Chairperson of the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee. We next have Dr. Carl DiCicco, Non-Executive Director. The next we have is Dr. Kush Parmar, Independent Director. We have Ms. Sharmila Abhay Karve, Independent Director and Chairperson of Stakeholders Relationship and ESG Committee. We next have Dr. Vijay Kachru, Independent Director and Chairperson of Science and Technology Committee. I would also like to introduce our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Shibaji Bishwas. And finally, Ms. Priyadarshini Mahapatra, our Company Secretary. All our directors are present at this AGM. Our statutory auditors, BSR and Company, LLP, and secretarial auditors, V. Sridharan and Associates, have also joined this meeting. Participation of members through video conference is being reckoned for the purpose of quorum as per the circular issued by the MCA and Section 103 of the Companies Act 2013. As the requisite quorum is present for the annual general meeting, I call this meeting to order. The notice of the 29th annual general meeting and the annual report for FY 21-22 were sent through email to all the shareholders whose email IDs are registered with the company or the depository participants in compliance with the MCA and SEBI circulars. As the notice is already circulated to the members, I take the notice as read. Today, there are 5 resolutions proposed to be passed as set out in the notice of the AGM. The company has taken all necessary steps required as per the provisions of the Companies Act 2013 and the circulars issued by MCA to enable the members to participate and vote on the resolutions as set forth in the notice. Members who have not cast their vote through remote e-voting and who are participating in this meeting will have the opportunity to cast their votes through the Insta Poll facility provided by KFin Technologies Limited. I now call upon us Company Secretary Priyadarshini to provide us with general instructions to the members regarding participation in this meeting and on casting of votes through the e-voting facility. Over to you, Priyadarshini.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, everyone. The members may note that this meeting is being held through video conference in compliance with the provisions of Companies Act 2013 and circulars issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Facility to join this meeting through video conference or other audio-visual means is being made available to all the members on a first-come, first-served basis. All the members are kept on mute to enable the smooth flow of proceedings of the meeting. The statutory registers and documents have been made available electronically for inspection by the members during the AGM. Members who wish to inspect such documents can send the request to investors@syngeneintl.com. As the AGM is being held through video conference, the facility for appointment of proxies by the members was not applicable, and hence the proxy register for inspection is not available. The company has received requests from a few members to register them as speakers at this meeting. Accordingly, the floor will open for these members to ask questions or express their views. The moderator will facilitate this session once the chairperson opens the floor for questions and answers. It may be noted that the company reserves the right to restrict the number of members asking questions depending on the availability of the time at the AGM. Now, let me summarize the 5 resolutions placed before today's meeting seeking members' approval as set out in the notice of the AGM. The first 3 resolutions pertain to ordinary business, which are adoption of the standalone and consolidated financial statements for the year ended March 31, 2022, together with the reports of the directors and auditors thereon. Declaration of the final dividend of ₹1 per equity share is our second item. This dividend is divided into 50 paisa being the regular dividend and 50 paisa being the special dividend for financial year March 21-22. The third item is for appointment of Ms. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who retires by rotation and being eligible is offering herself for reappointment as a director. Resolutions 4 and 5 pertain to special business, which are reappointment of Ms. Sharmila Abhay Karve as the independent director of the company for a second term of 5 years, and the amendment to Syngene Restricted Stock Unit Long-Term Incentive Plan FY 2020. In compliance with the MCA circular, the items of special business in the AGM notice are considered unavoidable and hence are proposed for approval of the members. In compliance with the provisions of the Companies Act and the SEBI regulations, the company has arranged for e-voting facility for all the members holding shares in the company as on the cutoff date of July 30th, 2022 through KFin Technologies Limited on all the resolutions proposed at today's annual general meeting. The remote e-voting period commenced on Friday, July 15, 2022 at 9 a.m. IST and concluded on Tuesday, July 19, 2022 at 5 p.m. IST. Members who have joined us today for this AGM through video conferencing facility and who have not exercised their voting rights during the remote e-voting period can still cast their vote on all the resolutions as set forth in the AGM notice through the InstaPoll facility provided by KFin Technologies Limited. Members may click on the thumb option below the screen to cast their vote on the resolutions. Mr. V. Sridharan, practicing company secretary, has been appointed by the board as a scrutinizer for the e-voting process. Upon submission of the report by the scrutinizer, the results of e-voting and InstaPoll will be intimated to the stock exchanges within 48 hours of conclusion of this AGM and made available on the company's website and the website of KFin Technologies Limited, company's registrar and share transfer agent. Statutory auditors, Messrs. BSR and Company LLP, and secretarial auditors V. Sridharan and Associates have expressed unqualified opinion on their respective reports for the financial year 21-22. The auditor's report on the financial statements of the company for the year ended March 31, 2022 also does not contain any qualification, observations, or adverse remarks on financial statements or matters which have any material bearing on the performance of the company. The statutory auditor's report on standalone financial statements and consolidated financial statements are available on page numbers 178 and 237 of the annual report, respectively. The secretarial audit report is enclosed as Annexure 5 to the board's report on page number 89 of the annual report. As the auditor's report are already circulated to the members as a part of the annual report, we take the reports as read. I now request Kiran to please address the shareholders.
Thank you, Priyadarshini. It is a pleasure and a privilege to address you all at Syngene's 29th annual general meeting. Given that COVID is still in the air, we are yet again conducting the AGM in a virtual format. However, there is a silver lining to virtual events, and that is the ability to have a broader audience participation. Moreover, we are saving you from the ordeals of Bangalore's traffic and are in fact reducing emissions attributable to vehicles. Whilst we are not all physically together, I am delighted to note that most of our board members have been able to travel to Bangalore to participate in person for the board meetings this week. And I can honestly say that in-person meetings are certainly more enjoyable and tend to be more productive than virtual board meetings. So I do hope that we can get back to physical AGMs. Turning to business, I would like to spend a few minutes commenting on some of the highlights of the year, which, despite the continuing pandemic, have propelled our company further ahead. You will also hear from Jonathan Hunt, our Managing Director and CEO, before getting to the main business of the meeting. As we mark the end of a second year of operating under pandemic conditions, I'm pleased to reflect on the continued growth and progress of our company. At last year's AGM, I highlighted the crucial role that pharmaceutical research was playing in supporting the world through the turbulence generated by the spread of the coronavirus. Financial year 21-22 was no different. In fact, the company started the year as India was battling a second nasty wave of the virus, which was less severe than the first wave but was far more infectious. Throughout the year, COVID protocols reinforced by company-wide vaccination campaigns stood the company in good stead, and operations continued at near normal levels. Our employees performed remarkably, both professionally and in their personal ability to handle the impact of the pandemic. The pandemic created additional work and posed daunting challenges across our operations. For example, teams of scientists had to work in shifts to reduce density in the laboratories. The strategic sourcing team shored up global supply chains for raw materials to ensure client projects could be delivered. The occupational health professionals and the clinical development team tested, vaccinated, verified, and counseled employees to keep them and their families safe. And with employee attrition higher than usual, the recruitment team ran virtual campaigns to attract talent despite the challenging environment. These are just few examples of how our people went beyond the normal boundaries of their jobs to cope with exceptional circumstances. In the labs, scientists continued to partner with clients on COVID-related treatments, diagnostics, and vaccines. Under a voluntary licensing agreement with Gilead, the company manufactured remdesivir for patients in intensive care settings around the world and will continue to do this for as long as necessary. Beyond the coronavirus, scientists worked on a wide spectrum of molecules and disease targets for clients ranging from large pharma to small and medium-sized biotechs around the world. These clients have very different needs, but Syngene's flexible business models have the ability to adapt according to their requirements. Despite pandemic challenges and unforeseen disruptions, the company delivered a strong financial performance that reflects the prudent management of people and resources by our leadership team. The full year operating revenue growth was 19% at 2,604 crores, and profit after tax growth was 10% at 421 crores. Operational highlights included the 5-year extension of our long-standing partnership with Amgen, which also saw an expansion of its dedicated research facilities in Bangalore. We also saw strong growth for the integrated drug discovery platform Synvent, which is proving to be particularly attractive as a solution for the biotech segment. During the year, the company introduced artificial intelligence and machine learning in many areas. We have also continued our drive to invest in automation and digitization aimed at improving accuracy and productivity right across the company. Another highlight last year was the publication of our first ESG, or Environment, Social and Governance report. Our commitment to safeguard the environment and deliver shared value to all stakeholders has been a feature of company life for many years. So, making a commitment to report non financial performance was a logical next step for us. Recently, we announced an epoch making announcement of our partnership agreement with Zoetis, which is the advent of our entry into commercial scale biomanufacturing, which indeed is a key milestone for our company. This work will give us a significant presence in the animal health sector and provide a solid platform for our biologics development and contract manufacturing services. Beyond our business commitments, we have continued to make contributions to the communities in which we work. Through our CSR program, the company has focused on mental and physical health, environment and science education, and several other programs. In this exceptional year, our program has also included nutrition for children in rural communities and support for healthcare workers. Before I close, I want to pay tribute to Syngene employees who, as I mentioned earlier, have demonstrated both commitment and resilience throughout the year. I also want to recognize the leadership team which has steered the company through an unpredictable environment and enabled strong and sustained growth. As ever, I'm grateful for the sound counsel and strong support offered by our board members. Finally, I offer my thanks to all of you shareholders for continuing to support our company. Your commitment ensures that our scientists can continue to discover, develop, and manufacture the materials and medicines that will improve people's lives in the years ahead. That concludes my introductory remarks. And now I will hand over to Jonathan so that he can tell you more about the company performance and his plans for the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran, and good afternoon to everyone. It's always a pleasure to talk about the progress we're making, and I'm looking forward to sharing the highlights of the last 12 months with you today. Kiran mentioned the pandemic, so I'm not going to dwell too much on that myself, other than to say we're cautiously trying to put that behind us. However, I would like to say how proud I am of the adaptability and determination shown by our employees, which has enabled us to deliver such a strong operational performance. One important highlight of the year is Synven. That's our proprietary platform for integrated drug discovery. This service is proving to be particularly attractive for biotech companies, many of whom choose not to establish their own research infrastructure or to build large in-house teams to take their science forward, but instead they choose to partner with Syngene to tap into the array of talented scientists that we have and access our world-class infrastructure. At the end of the first full year, there were 15 integrated drug discovery programs active, and we've got more in the pipeline. A further highlight was the progress in our biologics manufacturing. We've continued to invest to build capacity, and we see strong demand for both biologics development and biologics manufacturing. Obviously, the 10-year agreement with Zoetis that Kiran mentioned is an important strategic development for the business, and we're looking forward to getting the manufacturing of this important pain relief product for animals underway. During the year, we gained many new clients and established broader relationships with many existing clients. For example, following the 10-year extension of the collaboration with Bristol Myers Squibb in March, our long-standing contract with Amgen was also renewed, and that'll run until 2026. As we gain new clients and extend the breadth of services we offer, we also need to expand our laboratory capacity. And in this context, discovery research, which lies at the heart of the company, continues to grow. In order to accommodate the growing number of researchers, the third phase of expansion at Hyderabad was completed, and we're already planning a further expansion for the year ahead. Now, in development services, we're completing the commissioning of our injectable fill finish facility, and this will add a new capability to our formulation operating unit and help us meet the needs of customers seeking manufacturing support for their clinical trials. Meanwhile, the small molecule manufacturing facility in Mangalore is continuing on its path towards securing global regulatory approvals within the next 2 years. Operational excellence will always be a priority at a company like ours, and we're constantly tweaking performance to reduce waste, improve productivity and reliability in all aspects of our operations. During the year, we saw further improvements on a number of operational excellence metrics as we reap the benefits of training employees in tools such as Lean and Six Sigma. We've also seen many of our staff adopt the Japanese manufacturing practices of Gemba and Kaizen, which in different ways harness the ideas and creativity of all our employees to drive continued improvement in the way we operate. Now, as Kiran mentioned, we made a commitment to formalize our environmental, social, governance activities this year, or ESG, and part of that includes forming an executive ESG council, which I chair. In the future, we'll be driving an ESG strategy that aligns with our business strategy, and I'll be happy to report on that progress annually at the AGM. Looking at the year ahead, we've started the new fiscal year with favorable market conditions and positive signs of increasing demand for our services. In our manufacturing services division, we see positive opportunities for growth, both in biologics and our API operating unit. The announcement of the 10-year agreement with Zoetis will give scale and momentum to our biologics manufacturing in the coming years. And in discovery services, we will continue to drive integrated drug discovery solutions and invest in differentiated capabilities and technologies and platforms, including AI-enabled drug discovery. And in development services, we see a continuation of the improved operational efficiency that really has been a hallmark of the last 12 months, and we'll continue to invest in developing new service offerings for our customers. We've announced the results of our first quarter today, and it's been a strong quarter in our underlying business. As a reflection of the impact of the Zoetis agreement, the benefit from rupee depreciation, we've also raised our outlook, our guidance for the year to high teens growth. And in closing, let me add my thanks to those of Kiran for your support over the last 12 months. I'm very proud to lead a company that's making a difference in the world. And on behalf of more than 6,000 employees in the company, I can assure you that we look forward to continuing that journey in the year ahead.
Thank you, Jonathan. Dear members, before proceeding with the question and answer session, we would request you to kindly bear in mind a few points while participating during this session. Kindly unmute yourselves before you proceed to ask your questions. Please mention your name and DMAT credentials. Each shareholder will have 2 minutes to ask his or her questions, hence request you to please keep your questions brief and specific. I'll now request the moderator to facilitate the question and answer session.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am moderator here. I will bring the pre-registered speakers who are currently available one by one. The first registered speaker is Mr. K. Sadananda Sastry from Bangalore. I would request Mr. Sadananda Sastry to unmute your audio, switch on your camera, and proceed with your query. Thank you. Mr. Sadananda Sastry, you are on mute. I would request you to unmute and switch on your camera and proceed. Thank you.
You need to unmute yourself, Mr. Shastri.
is joining once again.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Namaskar.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Namaskar. You can
I'm
proceed, sir.
audible.
Yes.
Are you seeing me?
I can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Shall
Sir,
I start now?
you need to, yes, sir, you need to
Okay.
switch on your camera, sir.
Please proceed.
You can proceed with your questions, Mr. Shastri, if you're facing any issues with your camera.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you're audible.
Okay, okay. Good afternoon. I'm Sadananda Shastri from Bangalore. Number is 11702201. This virtual meeting do not serve any purpose. Neither we can approach you properly, nor you can reach us effectively. In chairman's message, you have explained as how hectic efforts put by scientists in COVID period. We want to know why our vaccines did not popularize as Serum Institute or AstraZeneca. We had high expectations about our company, but disappointed. Page number 28. While explaining oral antiviral, you have classified as new COVID-19 or old COVID-19. Is there any significance for new COVID-19? Page number 74, board's report. Even in pandemic period, company has performed well as the products are pertaining and relating to healthcare and life savings. Company has full scope to develop further. What is the company's strategy? Page number 64. As far as CSR is concerned, I don't like to express any of my views. Page number 192. There is a good positive growth in revenue, but the net result showing a negative growth to the extent of 100 million. What is the reason? Again, foreign exchange fluctuations figure increased to the extent of 508 million. Under what circumstances this positive growth in negative terms happened? Page number 259. In trade receivables, there is outstanding stuck nearly 2 years to the extent of 181 million. Whether all these become bad in the current year. Page number 269. In other expenses, sales promotion expenses is increased by 60 million. Whether there is any proper or proportionate increase of revenues for having spent 60 million. I thank your entire team who have helped me to join the meeting and getting me to hard copy of the annual report. My questions are very brief this year. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll
Mr.
move to the second speaker.
We'll answer his queries.
Very happy to answer some of those. Sibaji, I think there's a number that are coming your way from the financial side. So if we start from the beginning, I think I got the gist of the question around the vaccines. Actually, Syngene's real focus throughout COVID-19, I think, has been threefold. The first thing really was to keep our employees safe, keep their families safe, and I'm immensely proud of the work that we've done there with running a vaccination program for our employees. We got nearly 100% of staff vaccinated, but we did more than that. We also extended that through to their families and family groups on the principle that no one's safe until everybody's vaccinated in a family. So I think we can be really very happy with what we did there. The second dimension for us was really the work we did on remdesivir. Very, very important medicine over the last couple of years for those people that were unfortunate enough to get COVID-19, but not just get a sort of general dose of it, but end up severely, severely ill, hospitalized. This is a life-saving medicine. I think it's proved that for many, many people, and we're incredibly proud to play our part in making that available. On the research side, I think India can be immensely proud. It's now the workshop of the world when it comes to vaccine production. Not something that's a core capability for Syngene, but we were very proud to be associated with the science there around helping the vaccine manufacturers figure out what the right type of vaccine was very, very early. So that was the work we were doing on spike proteins. We talked a little bit about that, Mr. Shastri, last year. So I think we've made some good progress. And then I think the last part really is just the culmination of that is to be able to operate the company. We grew, but we kept other science going. COVID has really dominated the world's thoughts, but every other disease still exists. And we've done an awful lot there to move the needle forward in many, many other disease states. So that would really be my comment on vaccines, COVID-19. Sibaji, some of the financials.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, Mr. Sastry, for the questions. There are a few finance questions, and I'll take one by one. The first one is that if the revenues have grown, why is the PAT or profit after tax hasn't grown as much? If you have gone through our financials, our profit before tax has grown almost at the same level as profit as the revenues. Last year, we had seen an effective tax rate going up because in the previous year, we had some benefit from tax reversals, which was not available in FY22, and hence the profit after tax figures haven't grown in line with the profit before tax number. It's purely a factor of tax accounting over there. There are two more aspects to this. We had reversed an exceptional revenue charge over here in the last year. If you recall, in the past, we used to receive export incentive. Till FY20, export incentive was valid. And based on our previous trends and understanding, we had accrued close to 5% of export incentive income. But post-pandemic, the government changed its stand and capped the export incentive to rupees 5 crores. Hence, we had to reverse 30 crores of export incentive in the last year, as it did not pertain to the corresponding reporting year. We called it exceptional income. So that also affected the reported profit after tax. There's one more item which you touched on, which is around Forex. Most of our incomes are actually in foreign currencies, so we have to take hedge on those foreign currency receivables. We do not speculate. We actually have hedged all our Forex receivables for the year. Now, depending on how the exchange rate moves, we had to take an accounting of hedge gains or hedge loss. That doesn't go through the P&L, but goes through the item called other comprehensive income, which is below the reported profit after tax, and that got reported as also another adjustment over here. So overall, the operating profit is absolutely on track, is in line with the revenue growth. It's basically either exceptional expenditures that are coming on the way or Forex movements, which will all reverse or correct itself over the period of time. That's why on a reported basis, you see an impact on the profit after tax. There are two more questions, one on receivables. Our receivable position is generally very healthy. We have not seen much of bad debt in our business because we deal with mostly corporates. However, we take a prudent provision every year and then evaluate. Our receivables aging has actually improved year on year in FY22, which is good news because that means the health of the business is improving. So no concern on receivables from my side, and what you see as a number is what is typically is a provision that we carry. Sales expenditure is the other question. Yes, it goes up, but it goes up in alignment to the business. Our business is expanding. We are expanding geographically to the other parts of the world. So sales expenditure will go up, but it's also reflected in the 19% or so revenue growth that you are seeing. So absolutely sound way to spend. I hope I've answered your question, Mr. Sastry.
Thank you, sir. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Shastri.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We'll move to the next registered speaker. The second registered speaker is Mr. Aspi Bamansha from Mumbai. I would request the speaker, Mr. Aspi, to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with the query. Thank you.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Chairman, Madam, I'm Aspi from Bombay. Most of the questions are answered just now, so I don't have anything to say. I just wanted to congratulate you on good results. Thank you very much and all the best for the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move to the third registered speaker. The third registered speaker is Mr. Dipankar Purkashtya. I would request Mr. Dipankar to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with the query. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Couple of questions I had sent in by mail, which were database. So I'll take up all the questions now. So my first issue is that over the last few years, the share of services in your total business has come down from 80% to 66%, which means that manufacturing has gone up from 20% to 34%. But if I look at the last 7 years at least, your asset turnover ratio of the company has remained static between 0.5 and 0.6. The theory of increasing manufacturing share was that operating leverage would kick in and the asset turnover figures would start going up. I believe the figure of 1, an asset turnover of 1 was the aspirational target. But this doesn't seem to be happening, notwithstanding the fact that manufacturing has gone up from 20 to 34%. We don't see any sign of this elusive operating leverage, nor do we see any sign of coming close to this mythical asset turnover target ratio of 1. That's my first issue. The second issue is these dedicated R&D centers which we have. We operate 3 of these centers. Now, if I go back in time and I read the annual reports for the last 5, 6, 7 years, I find that there has been no increase in the number of these centers. Sure, the scope has expanded. The scope of the contracts has expanded and has widened. The contracts have been extended from time to time, but I don't see any increase in the number of these centers or the number of customers who are interested in these centers. And I have seen press reports that some of the multinational pharma companies like Pfizer is opening a global research center in Chennai with 250 scientists, 61,000 square feet, $20 million expenditure. Similarly, Roche is coming up with a similar center and others are also following. So does it mean that we have reached the end of the road for these dedicated R&D centers, or do you envisage a hybrid pattern where companies would have some dedicated R&D centers and also have their own internal or in-house dedicated centers? My third question, and this was a question which I had sent in advance because this is a database question, is that how many orphan drug companies have you partnered with so far? And how much of your revenue comes from the small and mid-sized biotech companies? And here I have a further question, because many of these small and mid-sized biotech companies are funded by PE funds or venture capital funds. So what is the impact that you are seeing on the business which you get from these companies on account of the rising cost of capital in the West? And my final question is that in your annual report, I find there were 7 whistleblower reports during the year, which is quite a disturbing number. So just wanted to know, what is the subject matter of these reports? Is it related to safety issues, procurement issues, HR matters, licensing issues? If you can just give us some indication of what these issues were. That's all I have to say. Thank you for the time and good evening.
That's a fantastic set of questions, and let's do them in the order you asked. And Sibaji, you probably got some sort of comment on the asset turnover. I think actually the way you framed it is a fairly accurate description on asset turnover and how it changes at a company level. What you've really got playing out there is 2 different dynamics. The research, if you think of our business in 2 halves, research services, so scientists in labs, or the development and manufacturing, which is much more of an industrial scale, they tend to have very, very different business cycles and lengths of business cycles. So quite often, and you'll have seen it in some of my comments, we're onto our 3rd phase of expansion in Hyderabad in under 2 years. That's a research business. We tend to move very, very quickly, and they have quick turnovers on the assets. The manufacturing business, take the announcement we made last week on Zoetis for a 10-year manufacturing deal. We actually started investing in the infrastructure and the capability 5, 6, 7 years ago. So they tend to be very, very long cycle businesses. I'm still confident, would stand behind the statement that you quoted back to us, that business should have a normalized asset turnover over its life cycle of 1. And I think you can look forward to seeing that start to come through starting from now. I mean, the Zoetis deal is a good example of that. So we should start to see asset turnovers drift up. The only thing that would stop that would be further investment and further capacity expansion, which I would take as a very, very healthy sign that we're seeing good market demand and further reasons to put shareholders' funds to work, create more value. So it's not static. There is a dynamic growth in the business, but I think your question was very accurate. Dedicated centers, again, I think the way you framed it, we've seen, I was trying to do the mental arithmetic. We have 3 strategic partners on the dedicated centers. They've more than doubled, if not tripled in size over the time period you asked. We just haven't added further dedicated centers. And I think some of that reflects the rest of our service offerings. What we're increasingly seeing is customers engaging with things like Syngene as a more evolved version of that model, including actually our partners like BMS, who don't just restrict their engagement with Syngene to the dedicated center, but they're increasingly growing outside of the dedicated centers, looking at things like Syngene and some of our other services. So it's a hybrid, and I think you captured that quite well in your question. Orphan drugs, I'm going to look at you, Sibaji. I'm not sure if you've got the numbers. Yeah, if not, we can follow up.
Sure, I'll respond on that. First, I'll again touch a bit on the asset turnover because it's a very finance type question. First of all, asset turnover, we give a guidance of 1x, and that's for our research part of the business. And what we say is that from the point of investment, within 18 to 20 months, we see an asset turnover of 1x. We stand by that, and the 66% of our business that you were talking about, which is research oriented, has that. However, we are continuously investing and expanding that business. So at no point in time are we are 1x, we are generally 0.9, 0.92, depending on how much investment and how much is the build-up happening over there. But once the 18 to 20 months have touched, it's 1x all the time. And it's a business which is very well calibrated. So we understand the capex and return equation very well. If you have noted and that over the last 4 or 5 years, we have made significant investment in manufacturing. Almost 550 crores plus investment has been made in Mangalore, and also a large amount of investment has been made in biologics. Now, Mangalore is still in the process of regulatory approval, so it doesn't give revenues to that extent that much, so that dilutes the asset turnover. And biologics, all investment has been made with the understanding that the biologics sector is, or the demand is high, and from our recent announcement around Zoetis, we have seen that, that's true. So we'll see revenues growing in that space as well. On your number, we reported a 2,650 crores revenue, and the total capex, cumulative capex invested is around 3,900 crores, so that gives close to 0.7x, not 0.5x. But again, as our manufacturing starts delivering revenues, we'll keep on the overall average asset turnover upwards towards 1. Having said that, I should mention in manufacturing and asset turnover may not be the right ratio to look at, because the turnover depends a lot on material costs, and material costs can vary widely as a percentage of revenue. We look at returns, and over a longer period of time, we always invest in projects which give very solid returns. So financially, we are in a very good position from our investment and a return equation. There was another question around biotech companies and what percentage of revenues come from emerging pharma and biotech. It's close to 30%, and this is a sector where we have good credit policies. We look at companies, we evaluate that credit worthiness before entering into business, and as I said in my last comment, that we generally don't see a bad debt, and that's because our credit policies are working, and we hope to continue with that. The last,
I can cover the others if you want. The other bit I would say about the biotech section, you said around PE funding, that there's been quite a crunch, particularly in the US, in the biotech sector recently, challenges of people getting funded. Counterintuitively, that's actually creating some really good opportunities for Syngene. What we're finding is that those biotech companies that are already funded are very, very conscious about how long that funding will last. And one of the things they can do, because we offer some very, very attractive sort of value for money pricing, they can make that money go that much further by partnering with a company like Syngene. So we're seeing good inquiries coming in from those. And of course, Sibaji's point about checking their credit worthiness beforehand is a key part of that process. Your last question was just on the whistleblowers. I've got to say it's very important for us that we have transparency. It's why we publish these things in the annual report. The majority of those cases intend to be HR related. So they're complaints either around processes, performance reviews, people not feeling that their performance has been fairly assessed, and they want to bring that up, and we always look then for an independent view, but that would be the predominant one, and we're very happy to publish those. Of course, we report all of the whistleblower cases we have. That's the gross number. Not all of them go on to be upheld and actually found to be a sort of justified complaint, but we always report them and we always investigate them. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Moderator, over to you.
Thank you. We'll move to the fourth registered speaker. The fourth speaker is Mr. Krishnaswamy Natarajan from Kangayam, who has not joined at this moment. The fifth speaker, Mr. Rajesh Kevalram Chainani from Mumbai, is also not joined at this moment. We'll move to the sixth registered speaker. The sixth registered speaker is Mr. Yusuf Yunus Rangwala from Mumbai. I would request the speaker, Mr. Yusuf, to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with your query. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Chairman, sir. Speaking city from Mumbai.
Namaskar.
Sir, can you hear my voice? Can I go?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm speaking from Mumbai, sir. I'm very happy to be a part of the excellent company. मुजुंडे मैडम, आपके छाया और आपके क्षेत्र और आपके गाइडेंस में आज अपनी कंपनी सर कहाँ से कहाँ चली गई मैडम. आज अपना रेट मार्केट में इतना अच्छा है. It is very excellent rate, and all the foreign people are buying our company share, madam, because you are the handling, and your chairman sir is handling this excellent company with the two guys on the board. This never come back, sir. Our share department very excellent, sir, madam. If possible, I would like to arrange. I request you for the plan visit at bank, madam, if possible. If not possible, send me email on my mobile film so that I can show how our company going on. So one more thing, madam. So when was the last bonus? It is 29 years. So many years have passed, madam. We are asking a bonus. It is a time has come to reward us, madam. You are a very excellent company, and the Kali people are giving very excellent services. I voted in all the favor, madam, resolution, and I would like to know, coordinate, as you mentioned, all the staff and the people have taken the vaccine. Hearing this news, I'm very happy and I'm very polite, madam, to hear this news from your side. And the chairman's speech, it was very excellent. Nothing more to add on the chairman's speech, sir. And I would like to know, in foreign country, what is export we are getting in a foreign abroad, I'd like to know. And nothing more to add. I wish our company luck, if possible, do some sweet of Bangalore, which is a very famous, if possible, so that we can enjoy celebration side. It is my humble request, madam. And nothing more to add. As to share department, phone me, madam, if possible. Because whenever phone your share department, they are very busy, madam. This is my humble request to tell the share department to contact me, madam. After the free, madam. And when is a bio our group, second group company, madam, meeting? I want to know what is the date. If you please let me know the date of the second meeting, madam. And nothing more to add. My good wishes. It is there. I wish company small share शायरी पेश करना चाहता हूँ सर. आपसे सर मिलने के लिए सर, आपसे मिलने के लिए घड़ी सर रुक गई थी. चेयरमैन सर, watch was stopped, but after the meeting what started, sir. It is just like a excellent personality, sir. Your company, sir. This is excellent company. I will never share in my lifetime. This is excellent company, sir. And I am very proud to be shareholder of this company, madam. And the chairman, sir. Thank you very much. Have a good day, madam. Have a good day, sir. Also from Mumbai, nothing more to it, sir. Nothing more to it. Excellent company, sir. Excellent company. Nothing more to add my question. I support all the resolution. My thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra from Mumbai. I'm speaking in Mumbai. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Nothing more to add. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your very kind words. And what we will do is, obviously we will try and create a virtual tour of our facilities, and you can definitely see all that is happening at our site. But we thank you for your good wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Rangwala. Moderator, over to you.
Thank you. We'll move to the seventh registered speaker. The seventh speaker is Ms. Celestine Elizabeth from Mumbai. I would request the speaker, Ms. Celestine Elizabeth, to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with your query. Thank you.
Unmuted.
Hello.
Yes.
Ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. Respected person, Madam Kiran Majumdar, members of the board, shareholders attending BC. I am attending from Mumbai. I am Mrs. Celestine Elizabeth Mascarenhas, holder of 0514 5 times 0 90218. I cannot very much on the annual report because I could not that e-report. It didn't come in the PDF form. My PC was also not working, so I cannot say much on the financial side. I would here request secretary to send a physical copy of the annual report, as already 70 plus. I go to the next thing. I appreciate the work done. So the ESG care, whether we have rated it, if name of the rating agency and what is our rating score. My queries, which are more of the general. Number one, whether now all the employees are coming to office or alternate days. What is the attrition rate? What we are doing to research talent scientist. My second question is, how much or percentage of the total sales we are spending on R&D? What is the capex for the next 3 years, especially for organic growth and also for inorganic growth? Like we have signed 10 years biologics manufacturing with leading health companies, Ziotis. So what is the payment made here? Are we not thinking of buying such companies? A lot of companies in animal health care like Sequent Scientific, or fourth but not the last, future roadmap for the next 5 years, whether specialized in biologies or any other field, in the background of political problems coupled with supply chain and logistic bottlenecks, rising interest costs due to inflation, rupee depreciation. I have supported all the resolutions. I company honest. May it grow to strength, and most I wish you all a good health. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mrs. Mascarenhas. There were a number of questions in there. Unfortunately, some of the ones in the middle I couldn't really catch. Your voice was breaking up on the phone. The first one was really around ESG. There are two main agencies that rate us. MSCI is one, CRISIL is the other one. There are a whole range of ESG rating agencies. From everything we can see so far, we're scoring very, very well. There are many, many things that we're doing that I think are moving that forward. Water recapture, renewable energy, green chemistry are some of the examples. But what I do think we should do, I think one of your other requests is, could we send you a hard copy of the annual report? We'll include in that also a hard copy of our ESG report, which we published for the first time this year. And that really does lay out in quite a lot of detail many of the things we're doing, and also how we're doing, and how the rating agencies have looked at that. So we'll be delighted to send you those too. You're asking around employees, are they back in the office? Actually, for us, counterintuitively, just about everybody has worked on campus in our labs throughout the pandemic. If you think about the nature of the work we're doing, complex chemistry, biology, scientific research, it's just not work you can do at home. You have to be in that high science environment, which is why we went to so much trouble to ask our staff to do things like work in shifts. Some came in the morning, some have come in the afternoons, some have come in the evenings. That's allowed us to keep everybody safe throughout the last 2 years, but they've predominantly been in campus. Some of our enabling functions have been working from home. They're now back into the office, and I think we're all benefiting from that human contact, and one fewer Zoom calls is a good thing. Attrition, I think the whole world is seeing this. Our attrition rates have drifted up. They were consistently amongst the lowest, I think, in our industry. We're still amongst the lowest in the industry, but it has gone up by about 10 percentage points or so. And then some of the other questions, I'm going to look at you, Sibaji, for the CapEx question. I can cover the R&D one. We actually don't report a number on percentage of sales that we invest in R&D because it doesn't really reflect the way the business works. You would almost say 100% of what we do is R&D because we're always doing that on behalf of our customers. We don't invest in our own pipeline. We're always doing work for our customers and therefore helping them develop their R&D pipelines.
Yeah.
But CapEx.
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. I'll interpret the R&D question as how much are we spending on building research facilities. We generally talk about 1 year of CapEx when we give our guidance. This year we said around 50% of $100 million that will be spent on building research facilities. So that's the guidance for this year. In case of research, as we said, it's an expanding business. So over the next few years, we'll continue to spend. We have very good growth rate in research, and I was just explaining how the asset turnover works. So if we put 100 rupee today, we expect 100 rupee revenue in 18 months' time. And because the growth traction is good, we will continue to expand following that trend. So we'll continue to spend on research CapEx. This year, we are spending $50 million, and at today's rate, it will be around 350 crores to 375 crore rupees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mascarenhas. As promised, we'll send you the annual report along with the ESG report. Moderator, can you please take over?
Yeah, thank you. The 8th registered speaker is Mr. Alexis Peter Mascarenhas from Mumbai, has not joined at this moment. We'll move to the 9th registered speaker, Mr. Vinay Vishnu from Mumbai. I would request the speaker, Mr. Vinay Vishnu, to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with the query. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible. Please proceed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. I'm switching on the camera also. I've got adequate bandwidth here. Anyway, I'll start. Chairperson Mrs. Kiran Shaw, MD and CEO Mr. Jonathan Hunt, directors present at today's video conferencing, video AGM, company executives, shareholders. Good evening to all of you. At the outset, let me congratulate the entire team for having prepared an excellent annual report, and I'm also very much impressed by the chairperson's message at the start of this particular meeting. So I'll straight away get down to the questions, and they are as follows. We have mentioned that the cost of chemicals, reagents, and consumables is up 42%, corresponding to an 18% growth in revenue. So my question here is that what is the situation at present as compared to that at the end of the last financial year? So that was question number one. The second question is, so I've taken out from the chairperson's statement in the annual report. We have invested in digitization, IT, with a view to improve accuracy and productivity, and also invested in cyber security to protect client data and company infrastructure. So my question here is that what were the procurement and maintenance capex figures for these, of course on a cumulative basis, in the concluded financial year? And one more question, what are the budgeted figures for capex in the current year? So these are the few questions that I had. I will close, with supporting all the resolutions and wishing, the directors and the employees all the best. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Vishnu. Let me make a general comment on some of your questions. Sibaji, if I can look for you for the financial details, and Kiran on the digitization piece. I know it's a real passion of yours. You may want to comment. But on the cost of chemicals, one of the things I would say is going on, there is cost inflation in the world. We're seeing that throughout supply chains. And in the main, we're being quite successful at passing that through to our customers. Most of our contracts allow us to do that, and we pass that cost straight through to the end customer. But what you're also seeing, as you've seen this disruption from COVID-19, is people be very, very precautionary, including us, about your supply chain. So some of the cost of chemicals has actually gone into stockpiling and making sure that we've got reserve capacity so that we can continue to operate. That's particularly true in some of our high growth areas, things that we're quite excited about, like biologics, where we've deliberately taken the decision to invest in inventory. But Sibaji, I know you'll make maybe a few more comments on that.
Yeah. So, Mr. Vishnu, you're right. The cost of raw materials, which you're referring to, has gone up by 42%. I like to draw your kind attention to the fact that last year we did manufacture COVID drug remdesivir. It was done to help the society, and the COVID drug remdesivir had a very, very high raw material cost attached to it. The raw material cost is almost 65 to 70% of the price ultimately that or the revenue we earn. Typically, our raw material cost as a percentage of revenue would be between 24 to 26%, and that really pulled it up to 29%. And hence, the growth of the cost line is disproportionate to the growth of the revenue line. We expect it to come down to 26% of revenues in FY current year, and that's the guidance. But I would like to also mention over here, our business, as we do more and more manufacturing in our business, manufacturing typically has a higher raw material cost attached to it. So that equation may also shift a bit. So you'll see a gradual increase depending on how much percentage of business comes from manufacturing. But for the current year, we are talking about 26% of our revenues going into raw material cost. And what we have seen, the skew of the last year will not be seen in the current year. That's on raw material. You want to comment on the IT?
No, do you want to do the CapEx?
CapEx, IT cost. Okay. So yes, our vision to kind of accelerate digitization and automation in the business does require investments, and total IT spend as a percent of revenue. And when I say spend, it's capital expenditure plus operating expenditure. Year on year has gone up by almost 50%, and in FY 23 we'll be spending anywhere between 3 to 4% of our revenue towards that, and that's also an increase of another 50-60%. So we are actually optimizing cost in rest of the P&L to make room for digitization and automation, because we believe that's good in the long run and will help in improving productivity and efficiency of the business. Hope I've answered your question.
So let me add to that. I think, we are all very committed to digitization. And as you know, the pandemic has actually plunged us into a digital world. So thanks to that, I think we as a group, we as a company are really focusing a lot on digital technologies. We are aiming to be a paperless organization in the near future. I think you already heard in my opening comments, and I think Jonathan echoed it, saying that we are using artificial intelligence and machine learning and data analytics extensively throughout our company to accelerate and have more predictable outcomes in our research projects. All our manufacturing is also going to be using a lot of digital technologies to make sure that we have very advanced features incorporated in manufacturing. And in addition to that, we are also investing heavily in cyber security. So overall, I think our commitment to digital and digitization is extremely high, and we hope that we will be amongst the forerunners and front runners when it comes to adoption of cutting edge digital technologies in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the next registered speaker. The 10th registered speaker is Ms. Vasudha Vikas Dakwe from Thane. I would request the speaker Vasudha to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with the query. Thank you.
You are now unmuted. Hello, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. Respected chairperson and my fellow shareholders, myself Vasudha from Thane. Most of the question was asked by my previous shareholder. I don't want to repeat it again. Only one suggestion. Please look into the matter of IPO refund amount and unclaimed dividend, which are going to the IPF fund, which is as per the SEBI rule. But what I want to say is, please look into the matter and please try to avoid this matter to going IEPF fund, as it is the hard and fast money of the minority shareholders. So please do the needful with this. I support all the resolution. Thank you very much and wish the company all the best for coming financial years. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, madam, and we will certainly look into this.
Well, thank you, Vasudha. If there is anything that you would want, if there's a refund which is pending, please write back to us. We still have time. We can make sure that it is paid back. In fact, we've reached out to all the shareholders who have not encashed their IPO refund, all those persons who haven't. And time and again, in fact, every year we write to them, even before transferring the amount is due for transfer. Before just a couple of months before, we had again made a request. We've got requests for encashing from the shareholders, which we are making sure that is being paid to them. If you have any requests, please do write back to us. We'll immediately look into it and get it transferred to your account. But being a SEBI regulation, we'll have to abide by the law. Thank you. Moderator, over to you.
Thank you. We'll move to the 11th registered speaker. The 11th speaker is Ms. Sushma Chanda from Rohtak. I would request the speaker, Ms. Sushma, to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with the query. Thank you. Yeah, you have unmuted. Please proceed with the query. Ms. Sushma, you have unmuted. Please proceed. Since there is no response from the speaker, we will move to the 12th speaker. The 12th speaker is Mr. Rahul Ramkumar Rathi from Pune. I would request the speaker, Mr. Rahul Ramkumar, to unmute your audio and switch on your camera and proceed with the query. Thank you. Mr. Rahul, I would request you to unmute your audio.
Good afternoon, board members. My DP ID is IN302679. My account number is 30540867. I have two questions. One of them is procedural, and this one's addressed to Paul Blackburn, the chairman of the audit committee. The Mangalore plant for the last 2 years has not generated any revenue. So just from a procedural perspective, have you all in the audit committee discussed impairment of this asset for this year, or spent more than 10 minutes talking about the Mangalore plant and any impairment? And the second question is to Jonathan. Jonathan, again, back to Mangalore. The question is, what are the expectations in terms of number of employees in the Mangalore plant for this year? How many are there? And what's the expectation of revenue for this year? Thank you very much.
Super questions. I mean, Paul, I don't know if you wanted to comment from the audit committee point of view. I'm just looking at Sibaji. Revenue out of Mangalore wasn't zero.
Yes, no, it's not zero, but it's we will have some business out of Mangalore, but it's still not very big. Mangalore, as you know, Rahul, is at this point preparing itself for the regulatory audit, inspection, and approval. So main focus is over there, but there is some activity going on in Mangalore, and there will be some revenue, but it's not really significant. Before Paul comments, we do look at Mangalore business from a longer term perspective. We look at the financial projections, not only in audit committee, but in every meeting and in audit committees, we have discussion around it. And at this point of time, our view continues to be that it's a very strong business. It's just waiting for the regulatory approval. When regulatory approval is done, we will see good revenue growth in that, and over a period of period relevant for a manufacturing facility like that, it has a very strong return on investment.
Yeah, I should just say to you, sorry for being slow. I go back to our last conversation. Actually, we discussed it not that long ago. I think overall, I'd repeat the manufacturing strategy discussion we had. Last time we talked very much about the potential for the long term, that it was a long term business would play out over a number of years, that these were very, very long cycle assets. And of course, we're very confident we'll be making beyond our cost of capital over the life of both the Mangalore facility. But we also talk quite a lot about biologics, and I'm sure you'll have seen last week's announcement around Zoetis, which really is the step change for our manufacturing division overall, albeit it's on the biologic side of the house. Nothing's really changed strategically around Mangalore. The nodal point are those regulatory inspections. We're making good progress towards those, and they're exactly on the timelines we discussed and we put out publicly. So over the next 18 months or so from now, we'd expect to get to a regulatory inspection. I'm confident we'll be ready for that, and therefore we should expect a regulatory approval from one of the major markets. I'd expect the FDA to be the first one, and that then really becomes an inflection point for that business, which again, I'm sure Paul will make the comment, that would be central to any impairment discussion. Do you still believe your strategy is intact, and do you believe it's playing out in the right timescales? But Paul, do you have a comment?
Yeah. Yes, I do. What we do at the audit committee is that we look at all of our assets, and in particular, we'd look at any of them where there was an indicator of potential impairment. So it doesn't just apply to Mangalore, but there's no indication from a business perspective that there is any concern over the carrying value of Mangalore. It's going through a validation process at the moment, and once we can get the facility validated, then it opens up commercial opportunities to expand our production in that facility. So I have no concerns.
Thank you. There was one other question. Unfortunately, I can't remember the number in my head. It was how many staff are currently employed in Mangalore. So I'll follow up with you offline. From memory, it's a couple of hundred or so, and they're gainfully employed.
It's around 170 to 80.
It would be around 200.
Yeah, 200.
So with this, I think we conclude the question and answer session. I would like to thank all the shareholders, directors, and other invitees for attending the 29th Annual General Meeting of our company. Thank you, and the meeting now stands concluded. I would request the directors to kindly log out. Members may note that the e-voting facility will be available for the next 15 minutes on the KFin Technologies Limited website. I would like to conclude by wishing you all the very best. Please stay safe and take care of yourselves and your families. Namaskara.